I only knocked down one chair, so that wasn't bad. Thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you, Jessica, and Now Marketing for having me here. Such an honor to be here. Usually they don't want many Michigan people coming to Ohio, but somebody let me in, so I'm here. So I'm excited to be part of this event. I've heard lots about it and watched it online, and now I get to participate, so thank you again. So we have a lot to cover in a short period of time. I had a Red Bull and a Starbucks. We left at 5 a.m., so I am ready to go. But my business card is scattered throughout. If you have any questions at all, or if you want the slide deck or anything like that, certainly feel free to get a hold of me. I'll be happy to pass that along and make sure you get that. So as we dive in, there we go. So I know that they shared a lot about me. As you can see, I live and breathe as much social media as possible. We actually rode the hashtag and wagon on the way down. That's what we named the car. There's a contest. And then we got this little guy for fun as well. But a little bit more about me. If you're wondering what these dorky things are on my face, they are the Snapchat Spectacles 2.0. I know we just gave one away just a little bit ago. But snag these up so I can take videos and photos right from the lenses and tweet them out or Instagram them out or anything like that and have a lot of fun with that. And the wife's like, you are not wearing those to dinner. So they're only for business use, so you guys get to see them, and she can't stand them. But talking about the family, here is them all. That's my wife, my oldest, who's actually joining me. It's the first time hearing me speak, Ariana. And then we got a 2-year-old at home that locked herself in Ari's room last night. Luckily, the guy was there painting and got her out of there, so never know what's going to happen. So I'm a dork for social media. I'm probably one of the few that had a social media themed birthday party at 30 years old. But my wife put this all together. We had a lot of fun celebrating. And like you said, I do as much as I can with it. So other things that I've done is when we were looking for, our big day and putting all that together and having a wedding and starting to hear the expense and all that, I started freaking out. And so me as a marketer, I'm like, how can we change this? So I came up with an idea. I put a PowerPoint presentation together, went over to the in-laws and presented in the living room, and luckily they were on board. So what we decided to do is get our entire wedding sponsored. So what we did is we partnered with 20 different brands to get all the essentials that we needed: flowers, cake, DJ, limo service, the list goes on. And we had a lot of fun doing it, and it allowed us to save a lot of money, got me brownie points at the in-laws from the gate, so it all worked out very well for that. So you may be a little bit shocked about that and be like, what, she let you put logos everywhere? She did. So we had them on the back of the thank you cards, the back of the invitations, the programs. We left our ceremony traditional, but the reception is where we had a lot of fun with that. And here's kind of how it all went down. I don't know if the audio is working.
A Midland man went all out to pop the big question. Jeff Dehaven took his girlfriend Brittany Let's Kiss for a helicopter ride. Once in the air, Jeff told Brittany to look down, and there was "Brittany, will you marry me?" spelled out on the ground.
He had it in the grass when we were flying up, and I looked down and said, "Will you marry me?" And he's painted in white.
You see, she's pretty excited there, and of course she said yes. So congrats to Jeff and also to Brittany.
So before we could have a sponsored wedding, we had to lead up to and get some exposure and some attention for us, because nobody's going to care about an average couple. And so that's what we started with. Is I figured, you're going to do it once, let's go in debt and do it. So we did. So we got the interest. You see the local CBS affiliate came out. We had the newspaper come out. And that's kind of what started the whole people talking about us and interested in what we had going on. So then from there, I could say, hey, let's lead up to the wedding. We still need some money. So what we did is we created some value. So we partnered with the local radio station. They were like the hit music station in our area. And the morning show brought us on and became our official sponsor. We became the official wedding couple. And this is how that went down.
Scott and Mandy in the morning. Mandy here talking to Jeff and Brittany. We are their official sponsors of their big, huge wedding coming up. They've already had an amazing engagement. Channel 5 covered it. And we spoke with Jeff last week, and he told us a little more about the engagement. A helicopter, a private dinner at the H Hotel, written in a huge field, "Will you marry me?" Now, Now, we haven't heard from Brittany, so Brittany, can you just give us a little bit of how you felt that day?
I was so excited. I couldn't believe a helicopter landed in my yard. It was like the coolest thing ever.
Now, did you know anything?
No, he just called me a few hours before and said we were going out to dinner as a last-minute thing.
Thank God you looked cute that day.
Yes.
I would have been so mad if you picked me up and I'm having a scrubby day.
Exactly.
So, and that goes on. So we were on the morning show for a 6-week period, and we were able to talk about the sponsors we were working with. We were also able to say, hey, we need more sponsors. We need this particular items, flowers and cake, and so on and so forth. And so we got the TV coverage, we got the media coverage, and then we got the news radio coverage. And so then we actually had a package that we could present, put together a proposal, and say, here's what we can offer if you give us a cake. And a company donating a cake is the cheapest thing that they can do to get all this coverage. As I mentioned, we were on printed things. We also had a full-page ad in the local magazine that's distributed in our region. And we also were able to partner with a national blogger to do this.
It's your next
There you
TV.
go.
Congratulations, Jeff and Brittany. You're getting married.
Woo! Wedding time! Dance off, pants off. Gonna be the wedding of the century.
But before we talk about their wedding, let's take a look at their engagement. Hey, Brittany. It's me, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Babe, I have something I want to ask you.
Okay. What's the question?
Brittany, will you make me the happiest man alive? Happier than when I'm playing with Legos? And be my wife?
OMG, Jeff. Yes! Yes, I will marry you.
Cool! I'm gonna go to Starbucks to celebrate. You want anything?
Mandy, Jeff proposed and I said yes! That veil we bought last week, it's gonna be so useful now.
In all seriousness though, Jeff did a great job proposing to Brittany. There's a video right there. It was so great, in fact, the local news picked it up. So make sure you watch that video to see how he actually proposed. A little bit better than my reenactment.
So all of this allowed us to really have a lot of potential to get what we needed done. So this is kind of how we set up the process with all of that. And once you get married, you can't play with Legos anymore. So they're in the garage, and I miss them, but that's all right. So what we did is looked at how can we incorporate these sponsors, because again, we didn't want to take away from our day. People thought I'd put logos on the back of my tux and things like that, and that wasn't the case. You know, there's some things that we didn't want sponsored, like her dress. She wanted to find that herself and all those different things. So what we did is we put logos on the outside of the limo bus. We strategically drove around in the main areas. We also had a credit union. We're like, what can they give us? Money. So they did. They gave us $3,000, and then we did a dollar dance. And then I'm like, we need a fake ATM. So then we found a sponsor to build our ATM. And so then we had that so we could have the dollar dance and put all that together. Then we found a company to print the fake dollars so then we could have all that. So it just kind of started building on it. So when it was all said and done, we saved over 20 grand to make our wedding come through. But we wanted to do a little bit more than that. So we was like, okay, now that we moved into our house, we need some stuff for the house. And so, since we had this momentum, we wanted to carry it on. So, we found a company that was willing to donate an HVAC unit because we didn't have air conditioning, and that was not acceptable. And so, we found them. They installed it in January, as you can see, because they weren't busy then. And so, they took care of that. We didn't touch a dime of that. That was like 11 grand or something like that. And then we needed cabinets. So then we found a company that was willing to give us kitchen cabinets. And as you can see, there's a logo on the back of us doing our first dance. So every segment of our ceremony, it was the flower company's bouquet toss. It was the cake company's cake cutting, and so on and so forth. And so that's kind of how we made it all possible. So this long-winded story is just to show you that anything is possible with social media. You just have to be creative and willing to give it a try and see how it goes. Now, certainly every company we approach didn't jump on board, but we did find the ones that were willing to do so, and everything wasn't perfect. Our photographer wasn't the greatest, and I still hear about it to this day, but, you know, we did save a lot and made it all possible. So that's what I want you to look at when you're starting to put together a social media plan, is the whole process with that. This was years and over a year of planning to make it come through. I got 1 hour's sleep the night before the wedding because I was still finishing up things for the day. So this is what you'd want to look at when you're putting together your campaign. How can you build up that momentum, and not just for getting sponsorships, but you also have to, as the last session talked about, sell yourself to get new customers. And also sell yourself if you're looking to get new talent to work at your company. So there's a lot of benefits behind there. So before we go too long, I know they already mentioned this. Today is a national holiday. You guys know what it is. It's what? Don't be so excited. I can pass around Red Bull shots if we need to. So to celebrate, who's making this a big day? Does anybody know? McDonald's. So what they came out with is a stylist for your devices that actually looks like a French fry. So it's a fryless. And so you can get them at your local McDonald's. I actually looked online, and the closest one is this one. I actually went there before here. They're not going to give it to you until 10:30, so I did not get one, but maybe I'll go back. So you can pick this up with the purchase of a hamburger or one of their special things that they came out with hamburger-wise, and that's how you can be part of that. So again, it's looking at an opportunity and making that a big deal. Now today is also a different day to celebrate too. First day of summer, that's one. Your mom's birthday, all right. So for me, it's 15 years that I've been doing social media as a profession. So I started 2003, freshly out of high school with MySpace, and I've done it ever since, and I've been fortunate to have that opportunity. So back then, I guess I didn't eat when I was trying to start the company. I looked quite anorexic. I don't know what's going on there. But I designed my own logo at a coffee shop. Horribly done. I used Microsoft Paint. That's all I had, knew how to do. Eventually, I hired a real company. Thank you. Eventually, I hired a real company, and then I looked more professional. And then from there, I partnered with a print company that was looking to bring digital to print, and that elevated us to the next level. And then, as of last year, we launched Digital Mitten and decided to go back on my own, which stressed out my wife and myself. But a year later, it's doing well. So we can breathe. So today, we're going to talk about stories. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. So let's start with Facebook, the main man. So Facebook has over 2 billion monthly users on their platform alone. And so looking at that as the main player, I'm sure, like we just talked about, they're trying to get to 2,000 fans. And so looking at that as your main part, when you start to deploy stories, that's going to most likely be your biggest audience. And so looking at what is our ideas and strategies behind that. So now that it's the first day of summer, it's halfway through the year, how has 2018 treated you as far as your social media strategy? Are you getting what you thought you would get? Are you seeing the numbers in the analytics that you were hoping to get at this time throughout the year? If not, this is the perfect time to grab a Red Bull and figure out what we're going to do for the rest of the year and go on from there. So we essentially have one shot. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So we have one shot to make an impression because we have people like Simon that's going to be like, this is horrible, I'm not watching another story. And so when you deploy stories, you have to look at it in a way as a wedding day or as a celebration. And how can you make that very, very well so that people watch it and be like, I can't wait for the next one. Or I'm going to follow them maybe on Instagram and see if they do other stories there that I can be part of, and so on and so forth. And the cool thing about stories right now, and we know it's not going to remain, is that every story is 100% organic visibility. There's no filter at the time to say who gets the top and who does not. And you can even have two if you decide to do a live and a traditional story. So everybody can see your story. They just have to choose, do I want to watch this one or not? And if that's their decision, how are you making them saying, I got to check that one out? So we know it's going to change, and all of them aren't going to be at the top, and there's going to be an algorithm and all that type of stuff for stories. But right now, while we have the ability, you're going to get more views on your stories than you would a traditional post unless you're spending ad dollars behind your traditional post on Facebook. So let's maximize and utilize this why it's here to get the most bang for our buck. So what should we talk about? I get this question quite often. Well, talk about exclusive opportunities that you have, that you're part of. Like we were fortunate to somehow, I still don't know how, we landed a contract with Purdue University. And so we're working with one of their departments. And so that's something that we made a big deal about. We recently celebrated, again, like I said, a year. We did a big ribbon cutting. And one of the radio stations, the talk radio stations, mentioned that opportunity, which has gotten us calls for more opportunities because of that one job opportunity. So if we can make it a big deal, your fans are going to think it's a big deal and jump on that. Also, big things you have going on. Are you celebrating like I am? At 15 years, I know it's not anything crazy, but if I make it a big deal and blow it up, then again, people are going to embrace that and be part of that. And 15 years does say something about, heritage and longevity and those types of things. So it can work to gather and gain new customers and new exposure and those types of things. So also things like teasers or reminders. Maybe you have an event going on, like this conference, doing teasers or reminders like I saw Jessica do leading up to the event. It's also good to do contests on there, and I'll show you an example of that in just a little bit. And then just do some odd crap. My daughter's here. So when you're looking at, like the other day, I was at a mall last night doing a photo shoot, and there is now a big sign for all the calories for Mike and Ike's and Skittles. And I'm like, really? This is getting crazy. So that's something I took a photo of, put it online, and it goes from there. So also, stories are now becoming more and more business friendly. If you think about who uses desktop to use Facebook, most likely it's us business people using it at our office. Our end users, our fan base, our customers are using it on their devices. So now you can actually deploy stories through Facebook, through the desktop, as well as watch them and watch other businesses and friends and things like that from desktop too. So what you want to look at is, as you're putting your strategy together, if you haven't utilized stories, if you thought about utilizing stories, you're not sure where to begin, do something different. So what we did is, starting off this year, is we decided to hire a videographer to do a YouTube series. We know video is hot. We know it's things that people will consume over reading, and so we wanted to maximize it. So what we did, and you can maybe turn this one down as I just discussed it, but when we launch a new episode, which we do 2 a month, the 1st and 15th, we do an Instagram and Facebook story to promote, hey, the episode just dropped, go check it out and watch it. Now, we don't do it the same day that the episode has come out because it gets organic exposure and buzz initially, since we are on a schedule. But then we do it as we start to see that kind of taper off, and it gives us more excitement to get us through in those 15 days until the next episode launches. So that's something that you can utilize, and that momentum and all of that. The other thing that you'll see with our stories is every story starts off with a branding intro, and it ends with our logo. So the first thing they see is our logo, the last thing they see is our logo, and we do that intentionally for that brand exposure. Other things you can do is you can design and customize filters through Facebook, and through Facebook right now it's free. So if you Google Facebook camera effects, it's going to take you to the website. I actually have one deployed right now for Selfie Day, so if you want to utilize that, knock yourself out. And it's totally free. You just have to have somebody design it. You put it up, in about a week, Facebook approves it, and then you can utilize it in your story. So it's a great way to do a story and have your branding a part of that story. We also have one of those mic flags, and we just put stickers on it with our logo, and so we tend to use that to get branding as well. So that's a lot of the power within using stories through Facebook. So let's jump over to Facebook's brother, Instagram, that they own. So Jay Bear, amazing guy, he said at Social Media Marketing World, amazing conference, that no other platform has grown as fast as Instagram. And that certainly is true. Right now, Instagram stands at 700 million monthly users. 700 million monthly users. And so that is right, it's still a lot below Facebook, but it's the highest as it is. So let's jump to some of these analytics. So right now it is 2 times larger than Twitter, and it has more daily users than Snapchat. So Instagram is quite powerful. So if you haven't thought about getting on Instagram, or you're just not doing much with it, you really need to utilize it and maximize it. So, and quite frankly, Instagram Stories has way more features and better to utilize than Facebook. You think they would be more mirrored, but they're not. So, speaking of that, something you don't want to do is make Dawson sad. You don't want to post a Facebook story and deploy it to Instagram, or an Instagram story and deploy it to Facebook. And the reason for that, if you have 2 different fan bases, just like you don't put the same post on every single platform at the same time. You might do some things that are bigger deals, but you want to have different strategies per different platforms. Most likely Instagram is going to be a younger demographic, so your stuff should be catered towards that demographic. Facebook's going to be more of a variety of age, so then you want to customize it for that. So the thing is when you make an Instagram story and you throw it over to Facebook, the clickable actions don't work, the polls don't work, and all those different things. A lot of times it's cut off, and it just doesn't look well from a brand perspective. Especially if you're like us, who you want people to hire us to do their social media. So I would look at really strategizing again now that we're halfway through the year, and how can we have a separate plan for what Instagram Stories is going to be about and make that clear to your audience so they know I'm going to Instagram and I can get behind the scenes, I can get breaking news, I can get first alerts on new services or products or something along that line. And then as far as Facebook, we're going to utilize that to maybe answer customers' questions or help with reviews and clear up the conversations or questions that we're seeing getting asked the most and those types of things. So have 2 different strategies for each platform. So the attention span is 6 seconds, and a goldfish is, 8 seconds, and a goldfish is 9. So a goldfish has more attention than us humans, which is quite sad, but it's just how it is. So looking at that, we have 8 seconds to grab somebody's attention before they're off to something else. And so with stories, most of them are 10 seconds or more, max is 20 between the different platforms. And so looking at that, so that intro that I talked about, initially we did the whole 10 seconds, and we saw that people dropped off. So now it's 6 seconds, and we're seeing a better response with that. All they need to do is quickly see our logo and move on. And you do have the ability to go forward as fast as you would like, but that's something we don't want to lose them for that, and we've seen our numbers increase. The also cool thing about stories is you can see the people who are watching your story, and then you can start identifying brand advocates and brand ambassadors and those that are really helping your product or your products or your business grow even further by constantly paying attention to what you have going on. And by identifying them through Instagram, it's quite easy to just message them and say, hey, thanks for paying attention to us. We want to give you, some swag or something like that, or some type of gift, or invite you over to our office for this celebration we have coming up, or whatever it may be. So that really speaks volumes. And I'm always an advocate for providing an experience over a gift or a prize. Because experience is something we're going to talk about, share with our friends, and it's going to mean a lot more and remain in our memory for a lot longer than, hey, I got this iPad. So look at what experiences you can provide that can give you more visibility there. So I'm not breaking the news on this. A couple people mentioned it already, but Instagram launched yesterday TV. Facebook already has Facebook Watch. And so this is unique, and it still hurts me a little bit to do vertical videos over the traditional way that we've been told to do it and all that. So anyways, this is a huge opportunity. And again, with Facebook Watch and Instagram Stories, if you're looking at doing video content, you now have new areas that you can deploy that content to and get more exposure and identity there. Other things to use stories for is campaigns. So just like you do a traditional campaign on your platform, why not do a campaign on Instagram? And here's an example of that. So there's our intro. So we did a bingo, which has nothing to do with digital, but again, we were trying to use ideas to keep people paying attention. And then I just introduced it and talked about it. And then from there, I passed them off to go get their bingo board. So what I did is I provided a link here that they can get the board that wasn't clickable, but allowed them to go to it as something simple and easy to remember, or they could screenshot, which was super easy. And then every day, I picked a random piece and announced it, and then people won prizes at the end of it. We picked 5 prizes. So what this did was this really allowed us to kind of get our Instagram stories off the ground. We did something big initially, and it also had people paying attention. This happened to go for 15 days. We didn't know. We just kept rolling until we actually saw a bingo. And so that was something that we decided to take on and utilize. Something bingo's been around forever, but we branded it and strategized and made it work for us. So that's, an idea of something that you can do there. Something that you should download is called FocalMark. And FocalMark is an app that you can download. It's totally free, Android and iPhone. And what it allows you to do is type in your industries, and it's going to tell you the most beneficial hashtags to utilize in your postings. And hashtags work just in stories as they do in any other way that you're posting as well. And so you type in auto, for example, or daycare or something along those lines, and it's going to give you the most beneficial hashtags, and you simply can just copy and paste. Obviously in stories you don't want to do a ton. What I've seen people do is they do put a ton of them, and then they smack a photo in front of it, so you can't even see all the hashtags that's on your story, but it's getting that story out to a wider audience. A little trick. I know somebody said it was summer solstice, and I think somebody said something earlier for what today is as well. but National Day calendars where you can actually go and see, and we look at this for all of our clients and see how can we get our clients to be in different places and utilizing different hashtags and getting different exposures. Like I know Donut Day happened recently, June 1st. We also had BFF Day and things like that. So that's what we look at is how can we utilize those different opportunities and get seen in new spaces that typically we wouldn't. So that's something that you can look for, get ideas as you're deploying stories and saying, I don't know what to post. This can help you get there. So let's step over to live. You've heard lots and lots about live videos, and this is one of the stats from the VP of product at Facebook headquarters. And he said, today live video generates an average of 6 times as much interaction as a regular video does. So live is quite powerful. It has more visibility than a traditional post. So what you want to look at is how can you utilize live videos? And like I mentioned earlier, when you do a live video in a story, you have your traditional story and you have your live story getting more exposure and more visibility in that platform. So for me, I want to go live just to go live. Just to use it, you want to look at opportunities that are going to be best to do so. Yesterday, I had that opportunity, and we don't need the volume on for this one, but what it was is 2 buildings down from our office was an indoor farmer's market that opened. And that was me after the fact. Sorry. So what I did is I rode the scooter over and parked it right in front, and I said, hey, where's the scooter parking? And so maybe they're going to come out with that. But then we went inside and we started meeting all the different vendors that were there. And we worked with the farmers market. They had us come over. We do some influencer marketing, localized. And so what this gave us the ability to do is now these 20 different vendors were starting to share our stuff and replying back to us and following us and so on and so forth. And it gave us a ton of additional exposure at no cost to us because we actually got paid to do this video for the farmers market. So this is some ideas that you can look at. Is how can you strategically get new brands to talk about you, share your content, and have fun with what you're doing online. And like I said, afterwards I left with somebody gave me free rose, I got some cupcakes, and somehow I didn't pass out from a sugar coma, but I probably should have. So let's go back to Facebook Live and the possibilities there. So what you want to do is, like I said, live with a purpose, and certainly identify, what is my fans going to get from this particular live video. Like you saw with that farmer's market, I did that on my personal page instead of the brand because it didn't really fit with our brand. Certainly we're excited for our neighbors, and we're going to go there quite frequently, but the brand page, or my personal page, is where I have a higher reach organically. As you know, person-to-person content gets more visibility than person-to-brand. So that's why I decided to utilize that, and I'm very choosy on that. There's a lot of times where people ask me to share stuff, and I won't. I'm very selective on what I'm going to share because my page is my page. And fortunately, I can share pictures of Ari, and I get 100 likes, I don't have to do anything. Or I can share pictures of the 2-year-old, give me a look like, where's the rest of my banana? And then I get a bunch of likes there. So look at those opportunities for there. You also want to engage with your viewers. This live video provides that unique opportunity where you can see who's watching in real time and thank them for doing that. And there's articles that you can see that says by thanking somebody and mentioning their name, they watch longer because of that one moment or mention that you did. There's also a toolkit, and we're going to go into that and what that means. But the biggest thing that you have to have is audio. If they can't hear you, they're not going to watch it. If the video is kind of shaky and whatever, they'll put up with that if the audio is great. So I'm going to give you some resources for tips that you can use that we've tested and use ourselves that you can buy. But the biggest thing you want to do is certainly experiment with live. And the best way to do that is through Facebook, and through Facebook on your personal page. You can actually do a live video to just yourself, which you're like, why would I want to do that? Where it allows you to get comfortable with how it works, where all the tools are, all the buttons, all the different features. And then if you like it, you can always change it and make it public or make it visible to your friends and get more visibility there. Now, it's not going to get as much visibility as truly going live initially publicly, but it's something that you can test it out. You can also go live to just one other person or a couple other people. And that gives you the ability to say, hey, friends that I trust and respect, like Mike, gave me some recommendations on our YouTube show, and Brian and I were talking about some tools and stuff we can do in the back room. And so that feedback is ridiculously valuable to me. So if you have a couple people that you trust that will give you honest feedback, do a live video, send it to them, and listen to that response and their feedback and make those modifications and just keep doing it until you feel comfortable doing so. We're all not built to be in front of a camera and utilize that. And it's something that unfortunately is not going to go away anytime soon that we see with watch and videos and all this stuff coming out and TV apps. So try to find somebody at your office that's willing to do it and willing to learn and just practice, and practice makes perfect. If not, you might come across like Mike.
Here's Mike. Down at Mike's golf shop, where we buy golf. That's right. We buy golf clubs. Mike's golf shop. Come on over here. We buy golf clubs. Over at Mike's golf shop. Come on down here. We buy golf clubs. That's right. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs. We buy golf clubs.
So at least he has consistency down. You got that checked, got that one checked. So Mike's great. If you ever get bored and want to watch some YouTube videos, there's lots of Mike, and he's very entertaining. At least, and for his case, he went viral. So I guess it can kind of work if you don't listen to anything I say and be Mike. So that's something that you certainly want to work on for that. So let's start talking about some tools that we have. So a tool that's already built into Facebook Stories is the ability, so when you go to Stories, what you're going to see is on this left-hand side is that little magic wand icon. So once you click on that, that gives you ability to look at a whole new tool set. So we'll go to this next slide. And so what you see is all those little icons at the bottom. And so that's what comes from hitting that magic wand. Now the one that's the most valuable is all the way to the right, which is the tool wrench and screwdriver. So if you click on that, what you're going to see is the menu that I have above that already pre-populated. So it gives you a bunch of different options. There's 3 to adjust your screen. So the first one's the most beneficial. And so a lot of times I see people doing it live, and they're standing here, and they have these letters behind them, or the logo on their shirt, and it's backwards. And it's backwards because you're using the front camera. So if you just hit that first button, it's going to switch it around, and then everything's going to look fantastic. So a tool to utilize. So you do that before you go live on Facebook in the Stories format, and you're good to go. Or the traditional live, you can do it that way too. So that's something that's extremely valuable. Now the one that's third over allows you, if you're in a dark space, it can give you more sunlight on your live videos as well and kind of brighten up the room. So that's something to utilize there. So there's a bunch of other ones you can play around with, and like I said, those filters we talked about are there as well. Now if you do a branded filter, you certainly don't want to switch yourself around because that filter is going to be backwards as well. So you only utilize that when you're not using those filters and you're showing things or have logos or standing in front of a building with a sign or anything of that sort. So something to remember and keep track of. So some equipment. So I've went through a ton of different stabilizers, and this is the one that has been the best for us. You see the website domain there, smoothstabilizer.com. It's $149, so it's pretty affordable to any size business. And the thing I like best about this is, like I mentioned, audio is king. So this one allows you to plug in extended mics, a lapel like I'm wearing right now, or traditional handheld mic and all those different things. I had a DJI, but unfortunately, the back of the phone has to stick in there and you can't plug anything into it. So that's why I went with this model instead. So something to keep in mind there. The other thing is, if you can have better quality in videos and not have it so shaky, you want to get something to hold that. So this is one that we utilize. It's called mephoto.com. You can also get it on Amazon, but it's called the Sidekick 360. And so $30 for the traditional size phone, $35 for the plus or the larger size phones. They come in a variety of colors, so you can get one to match your branding there. And this is something, as you see in this photo, you can just set it on a table or set it on a podium or something of that sort. But they are made to go on a tripod, and here's the tripod that naturally goes with it, but certainly it works on any tripod. This is one that we like. It folds up to be about this big. It's fly safe. It's called the Backpack Classic, and it's $149, so pretty affordable there. And it's a bunch of different sizes that you can make it to work for different things you have going on. Now, as far as audio, we utilize this the most. It's the Rode mic. This one's, I think, $69, and there's the link for there. Now, this link is case sensitive, so if it's capital, you have to type it in capital for it to work. It's lowercase for it to work. So that's one that we utilized for all of that. So that's a lot of what I had in a short period of time. So hopefully you learned some stuff for it. If you want to hear more from me, just go to morejeff.com, and you can follow our podcasts, as well as watch our show and get part of our newsletters, Facebook group, all those different things that we have there. I don't know if we have time for questions, but if we do, I'll be happy to take them. And like I said, if you remember something later and you want to ask, just use my business card. The easiest guy to get a hold of him on everything. So go ahead.
I have a question about hashtags. So
Okay.
everybody's talking about using all these hashtags all the time.
Yep.
And I'm just curious what using those hashtags and having everybody else use your hashtags does for you.
Sure. Great question. And Ari has a prize for you since you the first one to ask the question. Can you hand that over to her, Ari? Don't report me for child labor laws, but anyway, so hashtags. What hashtags do, the most beneficial things, it really makes or breaks your Instagram traditional post. But like I said, stories it works out well for as well. So what you can do is use 32 per post on Instagram. You can certainly use as many as you want on Facebook. LinkedIn utilizes them as well, and they actually recommend and really push you to utilize them there too. They started with Twitter. And so what it does on Instagram, for example, is it takes your posts and it puts it on the other pages within those hashtags. And now on Instagram, you can follow hashtags, and you can on Twitter as well, and you can search for them on Facebook. But it allows you to be in new places that you typically want to be seen. So that's why I talked about like some of these holidays that we can pull off of and utilize to get exposure there. So that's the biggest bang for the buck. Now, what we've experimented with is trying to use hashtags that are already established. Certainly we have hashtag digital mitten, and we use it as often as possible, but that's not as great as using hashtag social media. So you would want to look for, and I use typically Instagram for this, is you type in a hashtag, it tells you how many uses that it already has and posts behind it. And so what I've been doing is mixing in some that are really, really great and some that are just a couple hundred or a couple thousand, because the bigger ones, it's more of a competitive space. The ones that I've just used a couple thousand times, it's easier to get more exposure there. So you want to get a balance of that. And so we try to max out 32 for every post for Instagram. Facebook, I tend to stick with the 3 to 5 rule because otherwise it looks a little ridiculous. But you want to pinpoint the ones that are the most best utilized on that platform. Twitter would be the same guidelines I would follow, 3 to 5. And then like I said, it's stories. I usually incorporate a few, but a lot of times we've been playing around with putting a bunch on them and just hiding it behind a layer and getting that additional exposure there. Does that help? Okay, yeah. Can I go over focal mark? The benefit? All right, so what it does, it allows you to type in any industry that you work in. So marketing, social media, agency, auto, pets, whatever. And then what it's going to do is at that particular moment, it's going to give you the most beneficial hashtags for that particular industry. And it's simply, you can just copy and paste it into Instagram to get that 32, or the other platforms to utilize, a portion of them. So it just allows you to speed up that process. You want to give her a prize, Ari? Okay, I think last question. Or do we have a couple? Okay.
For Instagram, because that's mainly what I use,
Sure.
how many frames on a story would you say is appropriate? Like, right now I don't have a ton of followers. I have less than 1,000, but
Yeah.
I have people that watch it. I have over 200 people that watch my story. So how many frames should I be doing on a daily basis?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a defined answer for it. I mean, there's certainly ones that have a ridiculous amount, and you're like, holy cow. So I just say enough that helps you build up that experience. Because essentially what a story is you're recapping an experience. So they couldn't be there at this event. So we want to show them what this event had to offer. And so we're going to take a bunch of photos, some videos, color and put text and everything on part, mash it together and kind of recap this event. So I guess as many photos that takes to recap the event, and you don't just want to fill them up to fill them up. You certainly want to be strategic with it. But I don't know, I don't really have a defined number, I guess I would say. I mean, if you want, I think there is a cap. I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but I'm sure there is a cap. But you don't want it to be, 40, you know what I mean? That's just a lot to skip through. And there's some that I'm like, holy cow. So I guess and the thing, the best way to know is just kind of seeing if a number starts to taper off after so many. And your audience will tell you, okay, that's enough. So, but let's try to make every single one as beneficial as possible. And you can even make them, like I said, less than the allotted time, the 10 seconds.
We got time for one more question.
Okay.
This might be more of like just like a personal preference, or I don't know, like Instagram, like etiquette. Like, why do some people put the hashtags in the comments, and why do some put them actually on the picture? And does it make a difference if you in reach if you do it one way versus the other?
There's been studies to show that, and we used to do it at one particular moment, you want to incorporate it into the caption. And then it went to, it's better if you put it in the comments. And then it went back to do the 4 dots down, and then you put all the hashtags there. So it just changes on how the platform changes. So we just try to follow the trend that we're learning about. So currently we're doing the 4 dots down and then putting it there. An app that I use is called Captions for IG. It's not an official Instagram app, but it's a free app. Captions for IG, and it allows you to have that 4 dot character space set up, because on Instagram you can't just like write and go to the next line. It just doesn't work. So this allows you to kind of set that up, and you can save it. So if it's something that you do quite frequently, you can use it the same format several times. But I don't know, at the current moment, I've been reading a lot and seeing more exposure with doing the 4 dots down and throwing all the hashtags there. That may change in a couple months, but that's right now what we're utilizing.